is reporting? So reporting is basically a presentation, a summarized presentation of your data. So people like your managers and your like your directors and upper level management can take informed decisions. So because if you give them raw data, they won't be, if you create a SQL query and give them output in Excel, they won't be able to understand what, like, if they won't be able to take a decision based on that kind of data. So what you do is you summarize the data and present them either graphically or in tabular format, that summarized data, so they can take decision based on the information provided. So the first, actually let me give a brief history about interactive reporting. So initially it was called Brio, and this was way back in, I think, 95, 96. Actually not 95, yeah, 95, 96, and the version was 5.5. So the company Brio, they started creating this tool, and after a few years it was brought by Hyperion, and they, for version 8, 8.5, so Hyperion was, they introduced a lot of other facility tools into interactive reporting, like the foundation server and dashboarding. They improved that a lot. And then few years back Oracle bought Hyperion reporting, and now they call interactive reporting. Initially it was called Hyperion Reports or Hyperion Intelligence Designer, but now it's called Hyperion Interactive Reporting. And I'll be teaching you in version 11.1.3. The most recent version is 11.1.2, but the capabilities are almost the same. It's nothing major changes in both the versions. So having said that, let's see. So let me open the tool. So, and one more thing, do you guys have this installed on your machine, or are you planning to install it on your machine? Because if you have the tool, it's easier to understand what you're doing. Okay, so let's go. So this is the interactive reporting studio. This is your desktop client. In this you can create your and the good thing about interactive reporting is everything is consolidated into one tool. So if you have to create a user interface, you use the same tool. If you have to create a report, you use the same tool. For querying, you use the same tool. So you don't have to open 100 interfaces and then try to merge them together. Anyway, so first thing first is you have to create, basically for reporting, the data is coming from somewhere. It could be your relational database, it could be multidimensional database, or it could be your Excel sheets, or CSV files, anything. So first thing you do is you create a connection to your database. So in this case I have Oracle installed on my machine, so I'm going to create a connection to Oracle. So how you do it is, we are going to talk about all these features in detail when we start the class, but for just for an introduction or demo purposes, you select new database connection file, go to, and this is your driver, so you use Oracle Net since we are already in Oracle. Next is you mention your username and password, and since I'm using my local machine, so I can say localhost, and then click on next. Sorry, this is VRCL. Okay, so now it's creating a connection to my Oracle database. So you can click on finish. If OCE is basically the connection file to your database. It's called Open Catalog Extension. So I can save it here, I can give it a name and save it somewhere here. I'm not going to do it because I already have that same OC. Okay, now so this is your interface for creating a query. Query is nothing but your SQL statement. You know, you write a question for the database and the database will return data set or data responding to your question. So for creating a query, what you need is you need your table. So the good thing about interactive reporting is you don't have to write the SQL here. So you can see under elements, if you expand tables, this will show you all the tables that are in that database and the user has access to these tables. So you can see everything here. All the tables are here. So first thing you do is you create your data model. So for creating your data model, it's not hard, it's very simple. Let's see. Okay, let's see if we create a data model. Let me see the table, you know, the appropriate table. Okay, so creating a table, a data model is nothing but what you do is you just drag and drop it into your on the right hand side. This is called content pane and this left hand side is called catalog pane. So you have this table and within the table you see the name of the table, this is the name of the table, and you can see the schema also. So what are these? These are nothing but country ID. These are the columns within the table countries. Okay, so you have your dimension table. You see, let's see, we bring in cost. If you can, okay, so basically what I'm going to do is, let's see how can we combine these two. So let's go here. So basically this is how you create your data model. You just drag and drop tables here, and then I'm going to show you how to create a join. Let me find the correct table. Okay, so you can see these two tables are joined to each other. So let me remove this. So it's your simple join. They're joined on the primary key, which is channel ID. So this is your data model, a very basic. You can have multiple tables here, but like just to give you an example, I created this basic data model. Then what you can do is now think about a SQL query. Let me do this. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, think about a SQL query. How do you write a SQL query? You have some keywords. So like if you look at this statement, it has a select keyword, it has a from keyword. So think the same way when you create your interactive reporting a BQI. BQI is the Brio query, so that the whole document is called a BQI. So think about this: select, and then the request line from will be. I'm going to explain it to you. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so now let's analyze this statement that I wrote here. So now think about this. So you see, let's compare these two together. So you can see what I wrote here is a select statement. So what interactive reporting does is it creates a SQL statement on the back end. So whatever joins you make here, or whatever query that you create here, will be converted into a SQL statement. I will show that SQL statement to you in a second, but let's create the SQL statement. So first thing that you need is you need columns which you want to retrieve. So anything that you like, if you can do this also, anything that you put in your request line. So that forms your select clause. So anything like the channel, class and unit cost will become part of your select statement. And then the join will be your where clause, and from will be these two tables. So let me do one thing. Let me create a filter also and say set demo. Okay, so when I do this and I process it, process is basically running the query. So I'm going to process it. So there's no data, but what I want to show you is the SQL statement that got generated. So if you go here, query log, so you can see what interactive reporting does is it creates a SQL statement on the back end. So you can see we brought these two columns on the request line, these two tables, created our data model, and then we had a join on these two tables. So this is your where clause, and then we created a filter on channel class is equal to demo. So that's why. So what interactive reporting does is when you drag and drop and create your model and create your query, on the back end it will create a SQL statement which will be sent to the database and appropriate data set will be returned. So let me open a okay, so like if you see, this is one of the queries. So if you want to see the SQL statement, this is a little more complex. So if you want to see the SQL statement that was generated by this query, we can go to query log, and actually before you have to run the query once, then it will create the SQL statement. So when I do this, it's there's some issue with my C. Where is it? So you can see it created this SQL statement for the query that I just executed. So the whole point is interactive reporting on the back end creates a SQL. I'm sorry, Sriram, do you have any question? Hello? Yes, if you have any questions, you can speak. If you have a speakerphone, you can talk to me because I was not able to look at this window when you wrote this question. So you can ask me again. But the point is, on the back end, interactive reporting will create a SQL statement that will be sent to the database and the results will be retrieved. So once you get your data back from the server, so let's go back to the queries. Okay, so once you so we have this like, so we wrote this query, we processed it, and then we get this data back. So this is what this database has for the query that we created. Now once we get this data back, we could go ahead and create this data is in a raw format. By what the raw format I meant, it's in detail, it's a detailed version of the data. So it will be difficult for the managers to take a a decision based on this. Like if they want to see what item is being sold the most, it will be difficult for them to get that information by looking at this kind of data. So to make it easier for them, what you do is you create reports. So reports are nothing but a summarized representation of your data. So let's see, I have some reports. Okay, so like if you look at these are all summarized representation of your data. So once you retrieve the data from your database, then you can create reports like this and distribute it to your upper management, so they can, they can use it accordingly. So now, as you can see, this report has a lot of features. It has summarized information about your amount sale for each product line in a tabular format. It has the number of units sold per month in a chart format, which is again a very good thing. And this is again units by quarter, this is by products. So looking at this kind of information, and you can see the whole report is divided into regions. So this is for Asia Pacific, and if you scroll down, you will see other different regions. For now, I think I have a filter on it, so you're only seeing Asia Pacific, but you can see if you look at the countries, you have Japan and Australia. So you can, by looking at this kind of information, you can take decision on it. Okay, books, how many books, what was the total sale for the books in Australia. So it won't take you a lot of time to interpret that kind of information if you have a report. So basically creating report is not difficult. You just have to have the logic on what you want to represent. So this report has multiple sections in it, basically embedded. This is a chart which is embedded in your pivot in your report. This is called a pivot, which is again embedded in your report. So these sections are individual sections of a BQI which are embedded in the report section. So if you look at this, let me explain it to you. So basically a BQI is the whole document. This whole document, all these sections are a part of the Brio query document called sample mod. Okay, and each section, these are sections in it. So these are groups of your, these are called subcategories in your BQI. So a Brio query document can have these subcategories. A query, so a query is nothing but a question to your database. We just created a query. A table is again a tabular representation of information. So like if you see this is a table. Actually, this is a table which is representing the information from a database in a tabular form. What do I mean by tabular form is it is representing data in columns and rows. Okay, so now if you see insert, go to insert. What other things is it has a pivot. Pivot is basically again a tabular representation, but it is in summarized form. And then you have charts, as the word suggests. Chart is a pictorial representation of the summarized data. And then you have a report. So a report is basically nothing but a combination of where you combine different things together, so you can present them, present the chart and the pivot, everything together in one single document. And then the other section that you have is a dashboard. A dashboard is nothing but your user interface. So again, on your dashboard, you can have your pivot, you can have your charts on the dashboard. Then you have your buttons, like this is a command button. So if you click on it, it will do something for you. So we will learn how to code this. This is a drop down, so you can select some option here. Like if you select 200, 2000, it will change the data. It's basically passing the filter and changing the data upon your selection. So these are the various sections of a BQI or a Brio query document. So in a class, I'm going to spend time on each of the sections. Most time I will be spending on the report and the EIS or the enterprise executive information system, or the dashboard, or the user interface. So because this one is where you write all your JavaScript. And in order to write your JavaScript, what Hyperion has an object model. So this is an object model. So it will show you all the sections in the document. It will show you what elements are there in each section. So if you go to this active document and then go to sections, so you will see all the sections. Whatever sections are here, you will see every section here also. And then if you expand anyone, like let's expand sales query. So it will give you whatever you have in your request line, whatever filters you have, it will show you everything. So you can create those filters dynamically or change those filters dynamically. By dynamically I mean you can change them using code. Okay, let me ask you Shriram, do you have any questions? Anything? We spoke about querying database. So let's see what can we talk in demo class. So let's talk about this. So let's talk a little about the dashboard. So dashboard can have multiple elements in it. By multiple elements I mean it can have a command button. A command button is nothing but when you click on it, when you click on this command button, it will execute some kind of statement for you. Or like if you go to a website, when you click on a submit button, it grabs your information and submits it to the database in the website database. So this is the same purpose here. This command button, it serves the same purpose. So we'll write a code, and then when we click on the command button, it will execute that code. Like for very simple one is like if you go script and let's say alert. So if I do this, now if I click on this command, where's the command? Actually I didn't create. Basically if I go back to the section, you can see. So this is something that happens. So you can basically, it's an event based thing. So by clicking on this command button, I'm creating an event. So if you're familiar with database or anything, you will understand what an event is. So by clicking on this command button, I'm triggering an event. So when I click on this is a cause and this is the result. So when I click on this command button, it displays this information. So this is very simple, but you know, like if you click on this, it will take you to that report. So these are some of the things that you can do. These are very basic. We are going to be learning a lot more advanced, but you know, just give an example what you can do with command buttons. Or like if you look at that, this is again like, so when you're selecting something here, it is basically taking that value and passing that value. Actually this is, I don't know if it's working or not. Okay, so like if you go here, if you see this one, if I select 1999, it takes that value, submits it to the database, queries it, and then returns the result. So your dashboard, the data on your dashboard changes dynamically. You just have to select one thing. So this is your cause when you select something here, and the result is the change in the data here, on the change in the display or the information represented on your dashboard. So these are the things that we are going to learn: how to create a dashboard like this, how to grab your filter and pass it to the query, changing like creating reports, so creating pivots and those kind of things that we are going to learn, and a lot more things. So and then
so Vinil,
yeah,
so
if I click on this section, it's going to come on. Like if I click on this, it's going to take me to the parent section. So this is basically the representation. It's not a asynchronous query or anything, it's just a representation of the data. So this data is coming from this query, sales query, and this is the data, actual data. And then when you get the data, you can create a pivot to represent then same information in summarized form, but a different view of the same information. And when we select something here, like when I select 2000, what happens is it takes that value 2000, and you can see the seer filter. It will pass it here, process this query, and then this data set will be returned for this year 2000. Okay, and then when this data set changes, all the sections that are associated with this result will change. The data in them will change automatically. So if you can see, this is basically nothing but a representation. I have created this pivot in this format. So in the query didn't change, only the representation of the data changed. So I'm going to, I will teach you this. If your question is, yes, we will be working on these pivot sections.
Okay, good.
Okay. And then, so other thing is a document, a BQI can have multiple queries. So if you can see, this is one query, and this is one query, this is one query. So it can have multiple queries, and each query, what does a query represent? A query represents a question against a particular database. So in normally, or to be very proficient, you only query against one database. Actually you can query only against one database in a query. So one query can have only one connection. So when you create the OCE, so see, this is showing you what connection. So if you click on, go to tools and see database connection manager, so it will show you all the connections. If you click on sample, it will show you what OCE I'm using and what this is the name of the query, and it will say if you're connected or not. Similarly, if I go to DDS sample, it's going to show me the query that I'm using, the connection that I'm using, and the status. So it's saying disconnected. So each of these, the sample and the DDS sample, they are connected to different databases. So what does it do? So each query basically gets the data returned from only one database, but every query can point to a different database. So if you see, the query test can point to Oracle, limit query can go against SQL Server, or they both can go against Oracle, but maybe a different schema, or maybe they can use different username. And then if you want to combine them together, you use something called a local result. So if you see, there's an option called local results. So if I click on it and expand it, so now I see these are the results from within this document. So you can see limit results. I see limit, actually I'm using limit results, so it's not, but you see query test, so I see result test here. If you scroll up, there's a sales query, so the sales query has sales results, so you can see sales result here. So the use of this is basically you're combining data set that you got from different kind of databases. So now if I drag it here, I can join these two together and create my own query. So this way I can get data from multiple or different or dispersed. So this is another use. This is also a useful feature because lot of times you might maybe not different type of databases, like maybe, but different schemas within the same database. And then so you can create, once you get the data back for both of them combined together, you can go ahead and create reports based on it, or tables, or anything, that whatever you want to do. And so this is a chart. So again, there are multiple kind of charts. So this is very basic pie chart. You can, if you go to format, and then these are the charts that are available to you, like bubble chart. So you can, bubble chart you cannot use it because we don't have enough data here, but like if you go to format, you have vertical bar, you have horizontal bar, multiple chart types, stacked area. So you can, basically a chart is nothing but a pictorial representation of your summarized data. So you can use whatever is suitable for you. You can use that kind of chart. You can change it from here also. So I can go to vertical bar, and then there's another feature. If you have a chart and if you want to see, so basically this is summarized information in pictorial format, like in picture format. Now you want to see the same information in tabular format. So what you do is you select your chart. You don't have to select here, but then you go here, insert, and they say pivot this chart. So what Hyperion does is, Hyperion is smart enough to convert that pictorial information into a tabular information. And you can do the same thing. If I want to convert this tabular information into a pictorial one, I can go here and say chart this pivot. So it will create a chart for that particular data set. So I think this is enough for a demo class. Kapil will send you a schedule of when we are going to start the classes, and so the class timings will be from Monday to Thursday. Srinam, are you in US or where are you?